It's really quite simple. It's 100% of our employees are people, and 100% of our customers are people. And I'm a huge believer that if you don't understand people, you don't understand business.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset, founder and CEO of Servosity. Today, I continue my mission to interview 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on the planet. Now, Kevin built his MSP from zero to $14 million in just 6 years. The crazy part is he had to fire every single employee he had to get rid of the toxic culture he had managed to build. Now, he's built this amazing culture where part of his 10-year vision is to give away $1 million every single year to the community. So if you'd like to learn how to turn your culture around and make that kind of impact on your community, don't miss out on my conversation with Kevin today. So Kevin, I'm really excited to talk to you today. And one of the many things I want to talk about is you started your current MSP and managed to, in 6 years, build it to 14 million in revenue. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
But confusingly or interestingly, you had a break fix shop, but unlike it seems like every other MSP at that time, you didn't evolve your break fix. You exited. Is that right?
Yeah, we were doing managed services under the break fix, but we really sucked at it, to be honest. It wasn't the focus. We had break fix engineers doing managed service work, and we were very reactive and not proactive. We just knew we needed a different brand, a different coat of paint. The customers that were coming to that break fix were a very reactive type customer. They didn't value managed services. And we were also an Apple authorized service provider too. So with that, it had its own business model, its own brand, and yeah, it didn't fit managed services moving forward in the way that we needed to do it, and knew what the vision looked like.
Yeah, interesting. So give me a sense of the size or scale of that business, because you decided to sell it off, and I know later when your business is successful, it's always easy to look back, but I know sometimes in the moment I'm like, why am I walking away from something that's making money to go invest in usually a startup that's losing money? So tell me about that, like sales, not the sale, but the size and kind of like what you're.
Yeah, we were doing about $1.5 million in annual revenue under that break fix company. And like I said, it was an Apple authorized service provider. So Apple was referring a lot of business to us, but we were doing both PC and Mac, residential and small business computer support. And that really just, that was a single location. We talked about opening multiple locations, especially for the Apple service around the region, but decided not to. Decided that really the path forward was managed services, and that's been what's exploded.
Okay, so you decided not to scale kind of the Apple authorized break fix model, and to build kind of for lack of a better way, a pure play MSP.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was focused.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only reason I say that is it may sound obvious, but focus is often what I need the most. And that courage to exit that and say, I'm not doing that. That's not part of our plan. And, because people say that like, oh, I'm a managed service provider. And often we get stuck in like, okay, Susie, you can still stay on at this cut rate plan that I gave you 12 years ago. So I love the focus. When you were starting this out, what lessons did you apply that you had learned that allowed you to grow this more quickly?
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is 2008 is when that break fix started, and I exited that break fix in 2021. But I was silent in that for for the last couple years. That always had incremental revenue. We were growing year over year. It was great, but the the level of customer, the level of service, the level of employees that were attracted to it, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
We had a very technician based mindset. We didn't have a great team. My dad and I had started that company way back when. I had bought my dad out years into it. Um, Obviously retaining that existing team, but the culture was horrible. The culture was not a place that I wanted to come in and work. It was so bad that in that history, this is the only time I've ever done this in my career, thankfully. Um, but we had to fire everybody. We fired every one of the employees and started over. It was that bad. Um, we didn't know what we were doing in terms of hiring. If we had hired somebody that was good, they left because the culture was so bad, and it wasn't something that we could instill better culture in. We would try with the different things the different, but we just had the wrong people. The people that just didn't value a good company culture. So it, we took a lot of lessons out of that. With ITPartners, we really wanted to do something different. We wanted it to be a culture driven and culture focused company. At the beginning, we would issue standard issue Nerf guns on everybody's desk. And now, as we've grown and grown and grown, that's something that we don't do any longer. But we do a lot of other things to make up for it. But
awesome.
a very culture driven approach. And core values were a big part of that. What is the mission behind what we're doing? Why are we doing that? And rallying people around that, but hiring based off those core values, and unfortunately firing based off those core values as well.
So a lot of people talk about core values. Did you have lessons learned that came out of that when you started this to say these are those core values I've learned from that kind of horrible culture, as you were saying?
Well, what we didn't want to do was, write core values to fix a problem. We wanted to start fresh. And core values are interesting. I'm sure we've all heard of companies, or maybe even worked in companies, that they might have 8 or 10 core values that are about a sentence long. And if you tap any employee on the shoulder, they're like, I think quality is one of them. There's just so many that they don't even know them. And so we wanted them to be very simple, very clear, and very self-explanatory. And so our core values are do great work, think big, and make it fun.
I love that.
And that's the really the ethos of ITPartners. But we along the way we developed a why. Why are we doing this? And so that was an interesting part. As we move out of that break fix era, if you will, into just ITPartners proper in the managed service business. Here we are. We're probably about at the time a $3.5 million MSP in revenue. And I've got this executive team around me, leaders in our company, and I reach what I'll say this business owner's utopia that, the drinks on a beach. I've gotten myself so far removed out of the day to day, and I'm able to focus on bigger picture. I'm able to trust my team to handle the day to day. I'm no longer handling server tickets. I'm no longer, turning the wrench because I'm an engineer. I just happened to realize 3 or 4 years ago that I like business a lot more than I like engineering, and I love engineering. But the faster that I was able to get out of my own way, the faster I was able to get into this spot. And I hated every second of it, Damien. I really did.
You hated which part?
I hated having so much time on my hands. I found myself able to run errands during the day. I found myself able to surf the news during the day. And, my team's handling most of the stuff. And it
Mm-hmm.
was this really uncomfortable time for me because I was so used to handling the day to day with everything.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 19 years old and started the Break Fix, my why to get into to business was, I mean, you're 19 years old, you need a job.
Yeah.
Damien,
Make
there's
money.
not really make money. There's
Yeah.
not really a why beyond that. And so inadvertently, I'm in this, like I said, this business owner's utopia for about 6 months and hating not every second of it, but very discontent. I'd go home and tell my wife, I'm ready to sell. And she'd be like, absolutely not. No, you're not. Like, who are you to think it? I'm glad I listened to her, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have told her that at the time. Um, but anyway, it allowed me inadvertently, I didn't realize I was soul searching at the time, but inadvertently I was soul searching to figure out, why am I in business? Why am I, am I like, I want to sell or keep, but if I keep it, why am I keeping it?
Yeah.
And the answer became really clear. And that was the people. And
Mm.
we really changed our company. We evolved on our core values into really our passion statement. And that's simply to positively impact people.
Mm. I love that you call it a passion statement, not just a mission statement or something else, right? And I can tell your passion for that. So what was I want to I don't want to jump away from that too quickly. So you're, I don't know, bored to tears, however you want to describe that. Like, just what do I do? And it's funny because I can relate to being needed too much. And I also can relate to this fear or awkwardness of like, I'm not needed as much as I'm used to. This is a little weird. This is a little odd. But when you're in that spot where you're,
Discomfort.
yeah, right. Like I think there's some value or utility that, to say I accomplished these things today, to feel like, meaningful things, especially, I think it's easier for me, at least, when there are things that are like, I did these things today, versus a lot of the time, the longer, bigger, strategic vision things that are like, I worked on them, but I didn't fit. You're not going to finish any of those in a day. And so when you're in that space, what was it that caused you to look for your why?
There wasn't really anything that I would say caused it. It was there's through the course of 2022. I'm sorry, 2021. I had interviewed 30 private equity companies,
Mm,
and trying to figure out, do I sell? Which one's the right fit? There were a lot of conversations that I had, and nothing was feeling right to us. Just
why not?
that's a good question. There, you know, I guess I'll talk about quick private equity. Private equity, there's nothing wrong with at face value private equity. Private equity in our MSP space has brought a lot of attention. It's brought a lot of, consolidation, roll up. It's brought a lot of, I would argue, operational maturity, even for those MSPs that aren't in the market to sell or sell to private equity. Um, you know, I would argue that if you ask 9 out of 10 business owners what's EBITDA 5 years ago, MSP business owners, they had no idea. Now, I would argue that 9 out of 10 business owners know what EBITDA is or
Yeah.
know what their EBITDA is. As just a quick example.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So private equity in and of itself wasn't the problem. It was, it didn't feel right. One of my business coaches and mentors, we're an EOS company. He's our EOS implementer. He had said to me, just, it was an in passing comment that really stuck. He's like, I see a couple of my customers are like, people that I coach sell to private equity, and they're running their business almost as is, but now somebody else above them is setting goals, and they're taking their business to new heights. And
Mm,
so that got me thinking, okay, well, I got to set some bigger goals, and
mm.
we got to hit those. That's in a quick summary, how we've gone from at that time about 3.5 million to now 14 million in revenue, in just a matter of about 3 years from that, that point in time, 3.5 years or so.
I appreciate that context because I know nobody I've ever talked to is it really linear, but my brain still assumes it was linear. Divided by the number of years and it's the equal number of revenue. But it shows you the trajectory to go from 3.5 to 14 in 3 years.
Yeah, and part of that's through acquisition too. So it's not just net new sales. Although we've had the sales team or have the sales team. We've got about 8 or 9 people that are full time in sales. We've gone through lots of headaches there,
Yeah.
lots of
Oh yeah.
growing pains.
Yeah. I don't think I've met a MSP business owner that hasn't really struggled with either handing off from owner led sales or even just trying to figure out how to build a sales team and usually starting with a lot of the wrong people or process.
Yeah.
So how much of the growth is organic versus acquisition?
Our core business is about $9.5 million in revenue.
Okay.
So 9.5 million from 0 to 9.5 is organic, and then we've got the other 5 million is acquisition revenue.
Yeah, that's still quite a bit of growth from what was 3.5.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so you were, if I understand this right, Kevin, you were trying to figure out why. Part of that why is instead of a PE kind of boss now telling you, here's the goal, you realize I could probably set those goals if I challenge myself. Before I go past that though,
Mm-hmm.
how did you practically do that? Right? Because you were probably already reasonably ambitious doing things, but also when you are the boss, especially if it's not an equal partnership or what have you, then you could, even with multiple partners, you can get complacent. And if you're not super complacent, like who decides whether you grow 10% or 25? Well, growth is good either way, right? So a lot of times you get in the comfort zone. So how did you go from the thought of why don't I set bigger goals to actually setting bigger goals instead of just kind of giving that lip service?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I I think that the best way to start is with a story, if I might.
Okay.
Um, and I talk to a lot of IT business owners every day. I'm talking between 2 and 4 IT business owners a day. That's what I spend my time with. And just Friday of last week, so just a few days ago, I was talking with an MSP business owner, and nice guy. First to paint the picture, there's about 45,000 MSPs in North America. 45,000. And
Mm-hmm.
that's everybody from, one person, working out of their truck, going, job to job, all the way up to really large MSPs. And this particular gentleman started his MSP in 1995. So that's 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And great guy, really nice guy, definitely a talker, but really nice guy. And in 30 years, his revenue was $950,000 US dollars. 30 years, and that's his highest year.
Yeah.
And as we're talking, because ITPartners is looking to merge and purchase businesses, and I can talk about that later if time permits. But ultimately, I spend a lot of time asking the business owners, what is it that you love doing and what is it that you're good at? And I also want to know, what is it that you don't like doing and what is it that you're not good at? Well, this particular business owner said, I love sales and I love marketing and I am an expert at that. And, I don't know much about him. That was my first interaction with him. But You've been in business 30 years and he's saying he's an expert in sales and marketing and you're reaching 1 million. Now, granted, most companies out there, I think the statistic is 5% will reach $1 million.
Right.
So reaching $1 million is quite a milestone. Um, but, being in it for 30 years, what that tells me is he can't get out of his own way.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go all the way to go back to answering your question, how did we get into that growth mindset? Not be complacent. It was getting out of my own way, bringing people around me that are much better than me, and allowing them to make decisions uninhibited, as opposed to micromanaging those.
Yeah. So when you made that decision, does that mean you made some changes in leadership, or you brought on new coaches, or like what did you do in your mindset? Because you were already successful, 3.5 million. I mean, a lot of people say, take your foot off the gas. You're doing great. Like you had all this time. Like you said, a lot of people think they just want to sit on the beach.
We made a lot more money at 3.5 million than we do now. No, because we're growing, and growth costs a lot of money.
It does.
So, that's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment. But,
yeah. No, I'm just curious, what did you do? Because you had to get yourself out of your existing comfort zone. So my point is, I don't know what your growth rate was, but if it was 10, you had to decide the new normal was 20 or whatever that was. So that's what's challenging, right? To me is some people, their natural is 20 and maybe your natural was 10, maybe it was higher, who knows, right? But my point is you had to get yourself out of your comfort zone. Do you recall any like changes you made to do that?
Well, yeah, it's really hard. The thing I've always hated, especially when you're talking about our passion statement is positively impacting people, is letting go of people.
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst thing that I have to do, and I absolutely hate it. It's the only thing now that really gives me angst as a business owner, is when needing to let people go. And for the good of people around you, and growth of the organization and health of the organization, those decisions have to be made faster and faster. And the better that we've gotten, and I'm not good at it still, but the better that we've gotten and the faster that we get, the faster that we grow, at taking either the culture cancers out of the company. And every single time, Damien, it's like, man, we wish we would have done that sooner. Why didn't we do that sooner?
Yeah.
And it's every single time. And so I've had to do that with executives, with partners, it's not fun. It's not easy. And we've got a really clear vision as a company. If you have 10 chefs in the kitchen, all wanting to create the menu their way, that makes it really hard and really challenging. But when the vision's set and people can, row in the same direction, something really beautiful can happen, and people can grow and people can have fun, and we can really make a huge impact in the greater communities that we serve too.
I want to dig deeper there. Tell me about this passion statement, positively impacting people. And I guess more specifically, what kind of changes did you make to become more mission driven?
Yeah, we changed our company. We're a for-profit company, but I'm wired to be a for-profit business owner, not a nonprofit business owner. But I firmly believe, Damien, that nonprofits wouldn't exist without for-profit entities. And so we look at our passion statement in three rings, positively impacting people. And it starts at the core, and it starts with our team at the core. And if we could positively impact our team with great benefits, great culture, taking care of them, and they're taking care of the people around them, doing great work, thinking big, making it fun. If we're doing those things well, we can impact the next ring, which is taking care of our partners, customers. We call them partners, but taking care of our partners. And if we're doing that, hopefully we're making a lot of money. And we can then do the third ring, and that's impacting the community. So the long-term goal that we have is really simple. It was a 10-year goal that we're about 3 years into. So it's 7 years out. And that is, it's not a top line revenue number. It's not a bottom line revenue number. It's simply to invest $1 million a year in community impact and partnerships. And that's $1 million per year. So each year we keep adding to that budget. And as we grow, we want to, have that match to be able to get to that $1 million mark in about 7 years from now.
That's amazing. Why is it so important to think through that in the rings, which I love? But give me some of the behind the scenes. Like, did you just wake up one day, or you read a book that told you all this? Like, how did this happen?
I wish it was as simple as waking up one day or reading a book, but it's just a journey. It's a journey to say, okay, it started with that why. What are we doing? Why am I here? Why am I keeping the business? Why am I not selling it?
Right.
And what matters? What motivates me to get out of bed in the morning? And it's growth for sure. And growth can be dollar growth, personal growth. It could be team growth. There's so many different facets to that. It's not just purely a revenue or profit standpoint, but growing the people around us. And so if we can rally the people that we have, our team, to be able to be a part of the mission, there's now a bigger purpose. Providing technology service is awesome. We're supporting as a group or MSPs all around North America. Hopefully your listeners as MSP owners, we're helping small businesses run, and that's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
I mean, think of COVID. Think of what managed service providers did to all of a sudden flip these on-prem servers to cloud and all this stuff to keep small business running during that time. We did a lot, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
And the teams, arguably, I'm sure everybody, all the listeners, their teams stayed together through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you kind of take that concept and say, all right, what's a bigger purpose? What's a bigger mission? And you get your teams to do more than providing IT service. Like we're providing IT service to organizations in Uganda, Dominican Republic, and providing internet, the teacher's salary. We're sending our teams over there from ITPartners to be able to serve in those communities and teach and set up computer labs. It's amazing. You're allowing your team to be part of something much bigger, and there's a lot of tangible results that you see in that from the communities that you serve, but there's so many tangible results that you see in the employees that go out and experience that service as well. And that's rewarding. Why
not just sell? I mean, this sounds a lot harder, right? So I got to ask, like, why not sell and walk away? What keeps you so fired up to help people grow and to grow in so many different dimensions every day? I mean, you see that the Walmart greeter that's 87 years old, smiling and handing out the stickers to the kids that walking into Walmart. Yeah. They could be sitting at home watching TV, but there's just something ingrained in me to work and to do. Just growth is part of the DNA. Tell me about the obviously the passion statement is people and positive impacting people. How has this changed how you recruit and attract and hire talent? The talent, like I said, we hire and fire based off of our core values. And that's really important. It's really important. The adage of slow to hire, quick to fire, becomes more and more true. The more I'm in business, and it's not about the quick to fire. We want to coach and try to build up our people and really invest in them before we have to get to those decisions, obviously. But as we have good culture fits, they become
they become more and more part of the mission and bought into it. So even the people that aren't going and serving on those trips, they're prepping the computers in the lab. They're getting the networking equipment ready for install. They're doing the daily support when the tickets come in, and understand that those organizations are part of the mission that we're serving. So there's lots of different ways that we can really rally our team around that. And as IT Partners has grown into more geographies, what started here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, is now an office in Minneapolis, an office in Florida, North Carolina. We have Manila, Philippines, and we have Red Bank, New Jersey, as well. Offices in all those metros. We're really evolving that mission. We have a overall mission team, and then we have a local team as well. So we have delegates from each of those local geographies that are in charge of getting their teams or the employees in that region ready and rallied around a local mission. So whether that be serving food to kids, at summer programs or whatever the case is, different missions that matter to those local geographies are all part of that as well.
Mm.
It's really cool. It's very infectious.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine there starts to be almost a flywheel that helps your recruiting efforts as they get to see what the team's doing, or maybe even as you get to later stages, perhaps talk with your team.
Yeah.
So what surprised you the most? I mean, you're describing, I think, the most binary change from the culture at the break fix shop that I've talked to, because
it was a big change.
It's very common that everybody wants better culture, and the few that get to this scale usually need to, instill better culture. But boy, listening to your description from like really bad culture to just this amazing goal, mission driven organization that is investing more and more in that community every year. What's been the biggest surprise as this I don't know 180 you've done here?
The biggest surprise. I hate to say this because it seems like I've talked about this already too much more than I think about. But it's making sure that we're keeping the talent we want to keep and exiting the talent that's cancerous. Because when we switch to a mission driven organization, there's people that just didn't get it, didn't understand, and I get that. It's a change. It takes time. But then there's detractors from it.
Yeah.
And people that pull other people away and are just bitter for the sake of being bitter. I don't know a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And so identifying that, obviously trying to coach it through, but if you're not seeing the results, parting ways, because they're not happy here. And so when you're talking about positively impacting people, sometimes to positively impact them, they're better off. They might not see it for a year or 2 years. They might not ever see it, but they're better off not being here. They're better off being in a place that values them, that they're happy in, and feeling like they're meaningfully contributing. And the team here is better off by not having the people that are pulling them in the wrong direction negatively.
Yeah. No, I can relate to what you're saying, because any leader with a soul, which is you're clearly one, you never want to let somebody go. And so what you just said of like, one of my reflections is I've never done it too fast, which tells me I've often done it too slow. As I reflect on those, and I don't know. I love your thoughts. I think it's because you care and you want to give them that third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh chance. And I don't know. I think
30th and 40th chance. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been there many times. I've been there many, many times.
Right. And I don't know. I love your thoughts on this, Kevin. I think if it's a skills issue, that's solvable. But when it's an attitude or aptitude type of issue, like I'm not sure I can help you change that as easily.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And my point is for folks that haven't had to let people go, I think it can sound kind of harsh,
Jealous.
and
Yeah.
callous, but the thing is, it's what's worse is having them, I've often seen people that were really mad, even brought to tears, and I had to let them go. And I've been blessed that a couple of them popped by a year or two later, back when we had an office, and told me what they're up to, and basically been kind of almost thankful. Right? They didn't literally come by and say, "Thank you so much for firing me," but we had built up a good culture. They kept in touch with people on the team, and they realized they were in a better place. Not everybody does, but I do believe in exactly what you were saying, Kevin. You've got to find where you're going to bloom, and it may not be this garden.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I know I've harped on this, but I'm curious, is it you reframing, how do you grow so quickly, especially recently? Is it reframing your setting big goals, like you talked about as one of your, part of your core values? Is it this focus and passion on people? Is it something else I'm missing?
Well, I mean, there's the nuts and bolts of it, and that's making some big investments in sales and sales teams. Like I told you, I talked to a lot of MSP business owners and owner-led sales, and they typically will hit a ceiling of growth, and then it's very 1 to 5% growth once they hit that ceiling. I've talked to a lot of people that have hired a salesperson, and they're like, I've given it a year and it's still not getting the results, so I had to let them go, and so I'm back in the sales seat. It takes so much more than that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of money, a lot of stress, a lot of time to build a sales team, a lot of mistakes. Gosh, I could write 10 books on the mistakes, and I could write maybe 2 pages on the successes.
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to, is just all those iterations of growth. I mean, we've had cold callers on staff. We've hired salespeople, and we just say, okay, go ahead and sell. No training, no guardrails,
Right.
no nothing. It's like, okay, yeah, here's what we sell. Here's how we do it. Here's what we say. Go. Okay, well, where's my leads? Well, I hired you as a salesperson. You need to go get the leads.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is so much more than just hiring a salesperson.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody who thinks it's easy, they probably haven't done that.
Yeah.
You mentioned investing heavily. Is there a reason? Are you bullish on what's going on? Just bullish on you guys? Why invest so heavily?
Yeah, I mean, our sales and marketing budget this year is 1.4 million. Last year is 1.3 million, or 1.25 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so it costs a lot of money to be able to make sales. I mean, when you think of what is the true cost of adding a recurring MRR contract, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about what that number is. Take the amount of net new MRR we get in a year divided by $1.4 million. I don't want to do that math. I'm starting to do that in my head a little bit, and it's already scary. But
maybe in 5 years we'll talk about cost to acquire, or 10 years, like we didn't know EBITDA as an industry, right?
Right.
Maybe we'll know that better as an industry.
We're not selling the Shark Tank trinket.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, just put some advertising out and people are just going to click and buy it and do an impulse buy. It's much more difficult than that.
Well, I think that's what people miss, is even if you're selling to small business, sometimes you're not, but even if you are, right? I think they go, it's a small business, but it is a very complex sale. It is a very big investment. It is not easy, no matter how easy we try to make it, to switch IT providers, MSP.
Yeah.
Right. So you're just there's a lot of marketing stuff out there of run this ad or send this thing, and then you'll just get clients, and you're like,
it sounds so much more simpler. Yeah, simple. Yeah. We've hired the companies from the trade shows. We're like, we'll get you the leads. And they'll get the leads ish.
Yeah.
But then you still got to close those leads.
Right. Yeah. And if you've been doing sales long, it took me too long to realize all sales all leads are not equal.
Sure. Oh, that's very true.
because you can
Absolutely.
find some that purport to give you a super low cost per lead, and in most of my experiments, they were super low quality, if you can even call it lead. Yeah. So, what's been some of the? Are you leading sales? Do you have somebody that leads sales now?
That's been a journey too. We have somebody starting a week from yesterday that will be leading sales. Somebody that I've known for quite some time. It's been a long time coming, but we've gone through a lot of failed iterations of sales leadership.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where we can just hire a dedicated sales director, and so that's been a journey in and of itself, because when you're small, and you get one salesperson, then you have a second one. Okay, they need to be managed, they need to be held accountable. And
Yeah.
in just like you, again, talking to so many MSP owners, I talk to a ton of MSP owners. I can lump myself into this, where there's certain things we're good at. We're good at engineering.
Yeah.
We're not good at running a business, generally speaking. We're not good at holding our team accountable.
Right.
We're not good at and sales, it's really just about holding accountable to those numbers. And that's not my gift. That is not my gift. So I sat in the sales leadership seat for a little while, not good at it at all.
Yeah.
All the time we're growing, but it's never just easy growth.
Yeah.
It's never, okay, we were at 3.5 million, now we're at 9. Oh man, that must have been a fun ride. Yes, it's kind of a fun ride looking back at it, but it was a lot of grit.
Yeah. Yeah. Grit.
It is a lot of grit. Not was, it still is.
Yeah. What have you related to the sales journey? What's something that sticks out as a lesson there?
Sticks out in the sales journey is you got to get out of the owner-led sales.
Yeah. So the question, how? Because I think that knowledge is a little more prevalent than the execution. Yeah.
Sure. And getting to the point where you can remove yourself, but you got to do the uncomfortable things that you don't want to do. Holding that salesperson accountable, teaching them, but then also getting out of the way too.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the unicorn. It's hard to find the person that's really good at sales and really good at the details. And that's what everybody's looking for is kind of that unicorn. And they might exist, but also unicorn might exist too. It's really hard to find.
Yeah. For a while, I thought I could either get salespeople that closed deals or updated the CRM. Right. Didn't seem to come together.
There you go. That nails it right there.
Yeah.
And you got to track it too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Volume is a big thing.
I'd love your take on it. I think it's really hard to coach and not micromanage, and then switch between coaching if I don't micromanage, and then holding accountable. Right. That's a whole different skill, because coaching I might enjoy. Holding accountable, I certainly don't. And they're going to need both of those.
Absolutely.
Is there one of those that came more naturally, or you struggled with more?
Neither of those are my strong suit. And that's where I really had to rely on people that were better at it around me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting the sales, at one point we even outsourced our sales leadership. We had tried it internally a couple times, and it had failed. We outsourced it. That failed. And now we're in the process of bringing it back, but in a very different light, with a dedicated full-time position. And so that's where we're at in the journey. It's still hard. At the smaller scale, it was hard. At the bigger scale, it's hard. So I wish I had this magic button to be able to give you, or magic solution, I should say, that an MSP could hit a button, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Well, if anybody figures out the magic sales button, that'll be its own discussion right there.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about acquisitions. So to where you are now at 14 million, how many and tell me about like the first one, like let me just start with how many?
3.
Okay.
We've done 3 acquisitions. We're looking to do 4 this calendar year.
That's quite the change. So I want to get into that, but before we get to those details, I'm curious. I don't know if it was the first one or the third one, but my guess is you learned something along the way there. What was the lesson? Because most of the people I talk to were not born being good at doing acquisitions. And so I'm curious, like what, you're planning to do 4 this calendar year. That, if nothing else, tells me you probably have higher confidence than you might have at one stage. So I'm curious, what have you learned going through those first 3?
Yeah. When I introduced the concept to the team, to our greater team, and actually it started with our executive team and getting full unanimous buy-in. Then then it came prep and building out a plan and what are we going to do? Why are we doing it? All that kind of stuff. And then when it came time to launching it to the team, I explained to our greater team, all the employees, what our plan looked like, and I shared this. I said our first acquisition, we're going to learn 700 things that we thought we planned for that we didn't know before that we're learning.
Yeah.
The second acquisition, we're going to learn 500 new things. The third, 300 new things. And we're going to just keep refining and getting better and better and better. And we definitely been on that track.
What surprised you the most so far? There are so many things to learn.
There's a lot of moving parts. What surprised me is with the right team, you can do anything. The right team around you. That's been just a really good silver lining. In addition, we've always been a company that's operated with a lot of transparency, and so we made mistakes, and so owning those mistakes and hey, here's how we're going to fix those, or help us fix this. Pick up the shovel with us. There's been times of that as well, and so it's definitely been a journey. I was fortunate to have a lot of people around me that had done this before, offer me their playbooks. So we were able to take those playbooks and start modify those and start from a really good place.
So why the change from 3 total to 4 per year?
So we have goals, and one of the most interesting things is when we were a smaller MSP, being in the day to day as a business owner, I felt felt very exhausted, but would never really admit that. Needed a lot of help, but didn't really admit that because all the decisions roll up to you, and you've got to get this stuff done at the end of the day. Engineer calls in sick, you're just working extra time. You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
MSP business owners, not generally speaking, didn't get into this business because they were great at accounting and finance and holding people accountable. Full disclosure, neither did I.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of joy in coming alongside of other fellow MSP business owners to be able to build something bigger together and allow them to get into what they're really good at and love doing. Because yes, we can purchase MSPs, and one of those 3 transactions was a full purchase because those 2 owners were looking to retire. The other 2 stayed on, rolled equity forward and merged with us, and we're building something much bigger together. And the power of that growth is huge. And so in 4.5 years, we think we'll be ready to sell to private equity. When we're a much larger company, we think that we could have an enterprise value upwards of $200+ million. And instead of all that money going to private equity, that can go to us as fellow business owners.
Yeah. So your strategy between now and then is not private equity backed yourself.
Correct. Yep.
And between here and your goal, do you have an estimate of how many you need to make? Is that going to be 4 every year? Is that going to accelerate?
Yeah, we're looking to do more overall transaction size, and we have a guesstimate of what that'll come to. So this calendar year, we want to do $8 million in acquisitions. So we estimate that that'll be about four, and then we estimate for the next 3 years we're going to do 5 to 6 acquisitions each year. Um, for the remaining 3 years, then we'll have about a year of stability before we're ready to sell.
Yeah. Anybody listening going from 14 to 22 probably won't be easy, especially integrating 4 disparate companies in a year.
Yep. So we're building our, a post-merger integration team. So we have a dedicated team that's on staff here, not outsourced or anything like that. That's doing the integrations, merging the PSAs, merging, the tool sets, things like that. So we're building that team out. So it's going to continue to get smoother. We're moving that out of our project team. So there's not overlap there. So there's a lot of really good changes that we're making to be able to handle that incoming influx in acquisitions.
So speaking of that influx of acquisitions, I have a lot of questions of how you're going to do that. But one of them is, tell me about, you've been working this for a while, and I think you've put together a pretty remarkable, what I will affectionately call a war chest to make those acquisitions. Tell me about that.
Yeah, good question. So when we first started, we knew that we could do this acquisition strategy with traditional debt, institutional, not institutional, but bank lending and things like that. And we knew that was going to reach a runway, or the end of the runway. And so from day one, it took about 2 years to really find the right partner that wasn't private equity. We gave up 4% of our company. So that's an extreme minority of our company to be able to get $30 million of a war chest, as you put it, to be able to make acquisitions.
Wow.
And that's been huge. So we've got a really big, a really big backer. Went through 6 months of rigorous due diligence. More than I ever expected, and to be able to get that, and that deal just closed. About a month ago. It closed, I think, like March 20th or 21st, somewhere in there. So not that long ago. And yeah, we're primed to be able to find this strategy and do it.
And just out of curiosity, so that's not, here's a check like equity often is. That is the credit line or the ability to take out that amount of debt. So you'll do debt financing. And just for all those that don't know, that is not a typical amount that a $14 million business can borrow.
Correct.
Unless you have a $60 million business, that piece of property that you own, and then they'll lend to you. So
like I said, there was a lot of due diligence.
I'm sure there was. So you're not PE backed. Why does this matter to other MSPs and the way you're doing it? Why does it matter to you?
Yeah, great question. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with private equity in and of itself. And for some MSPs, that's the right choice to make, is to sell or merge to private equity. But the reality of it is, with merging with, like, let's say with us, to give an analogy, let's just say we have $100,000 in profit, and the revenue doesn't really matter as much. We have $100,000 in profit, EBITDA, and at a 3 times EBITDA, we're worth $300,000. Our company's worth $300,000. For argument's sake, let's just say there's another company that is the exact same, $100,000 in profit or EBITDA. They're worth 300. Together, we're not worth 600,000. 300 to 300. Together, we're worth 900,000, $1 million, because as we combine our EBITDA, we exponentially go up the valuation scale to go to 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. So if an MSP is rolling in with us, and we're trading at whatever multiple evaluation, when we go to exit, we can do so much more together and grow so much faster. So, like, think earlier in this podcast, Damien, when we talked about that business owner has been in business for 30 years and has almost $1 million in revenue. I don't know exactly where his profit was, but let's just call it $100,000,
Right.
10% for argument's sake. Well, he spent 30 years to get $100,000, and to his business might be worth more, but again, for argument's sake, say his business is worth $300,000. Well, if you were to roll that into our company, we're looking at doing a 16 times exit. So 16 times from today's valuation exit. So that $300,000, if you were to roll that all in as stock, is now worth 300,000 times 16. I think it's like 16.8 is the actual number is what we're on track for. So as MSP owners, if we come together and pool our EBITDAs, we can grow so much faster in a 5-year period than we could ever grow by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's it like joining somebody like you? Right. I won't ask you to speak for others, but at least in your case, like, are you looking for most to walk away? Are you looking for most to join you? Obviously, I know it will depend on the season they're in, but yeah. I'm curious, like, what do you expect, and what is that like as that owner joining you?
We'd love for that owner to stay on. We want to build something bigger together, and so we give for right now, with the size that we are, the equity holders join the board, so they have a board seat to be able to have a voice in the strategic direction of the company, because we want to capture that knowledge. We want to capture that business ownership knowledge that these owners have, and help build this bigger together. We want to shed the responsibilities that they don't enjoy doing. So again, I keep harping on this, but like the accounting, the finance, the billing, we've got teams that do that. But it's a very methodical approach. And so it's not a rip the Band-Aid approach. It's all people driven. And that's what we're good at. That's what we enjoy doing is the people driven approach. And we want everybody to be a part of this together.
So you've done something very few do, which is basically because the very few reach 14 million. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of them at that scale are looking to acquire, but then, like you said, you run into if you're fortunate enough to do a few acquisitions, you usually have this functional limit to your credit line, facility, that kind of thing. Now you've figured out, right? You've got this, what I will call war chest that you can deploy. What else have you had to change, right? Because that still means you need to find the right, when you sort of prospects, right? If you're thinking of sales, right? So what is the change, and what does that look like so that you can, to do 4 acquisitions, you've got to talk to more than 4 MSPs.
Yeah.
So what had to change from your perspective and in your kind of day to day?
So I'm spending most of my time meeting other MSP owners and talking about the plan and what we can do and analyzing. Well, our finance team analyzes the numbers, but then I'm looking at the analysis and making sure it's a good fit and all that kind of stuff. So I spend a lot of my time on the road traveling. Going to different MSP events and shows. Got a big one coming up next week. I think we've got like 20 meetings booked to talk to other MSP owners there. And then there will be a lot of follow-up meetings after that. So spending a lot of time working with MSP owners. And it's fun. I love it. I'm a fellow MSP owner. I'm not a private equity backed person with no experience in the industry. I'm an engineer who started turning the wrench and doing desktop support as a business owner. And like I said, like 4 years ago or so, learned that I love business a lot more than I like engineering. We love engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. For folks that are listening or watching, what's the fit? What's the right fit? Like, who should reach out and say, if they want to consider this, what would you describe that as?
Generally speaking, that's companies between $1 and $5 million in top line revenue. The profit doesn't matter as much because we can help a lot in those areas if they're struggling or if they're in really good shape. That's great. And then we go through a process to value the company. We can even bring out an outside valuation company. There's so many different ways to do it, but uh, $1 to $5 million of top line revenue, 60% or more recurring revenue, of that revenue being recurring, and anywhere in the United States.
Okay. And if I'm listening, trying to put myself in the MSP shoes, like why? Because I found that most of us were not too educated around this topic. And I know if you go to events, you are, but I also know the more I go to events, the more I see a lot of the same people. And what I mean by that is a lot of the people that don't go to events, which is actually the majority. I had a gentleman email me. We call we have MSPs as clients. We call them partners as well. I had a gentleman email me today. Hey, I'm shutting my business down. I'm just going to hand off a few clients. Like, who can I hand these to? Obviously not the biggest business, but you get things like that where there was something there. Right. And so I find a lot of people think like the only option is private equity. Those same people think that it's the wrong option for a variety of reasons. And then they just don't know anything else exists. So, I don't know. Under what circumstance should I as an MSP say, let me have a conversation with Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, really, at any phase of that, like if things are going well, we can help them go better. We can make a lot more money together. If you're struggling from a business owner standpoint, we can help alleviate that. So it really doesn't matter the stage of business owner that you're in. It's about one of my good friends in the space says, do you want to build a kingdom or do you want to be rich? And it's like, is it all about you and I've got to be the owner just for the sake of being an owner? Or do we want to make some money and really drive some value? Now, we're a for-profit company that's people driven. We have stock plans that go to the employees. And so that's really near and dear to our heart to be able to take care of our team. And there's so many different benefits that we can offer as a larger company to a smaller company that merges. So, more generous PTO, better healthcare coverage, the ancillary benefits, all of that kind of stuff. There's so many different.
Not working every night and weekend.
Yeah, there's that too. Absolutely, absolutely.
And the on-call rotation, right?
Right.
When you're smaller, right? That's the reality. Either you are as an engineer or the owner or both. Yeah. So what's the, for folks that don't have a great understanding, what kind of expectations should they have kind of entering into this conversation? And I guess what I mean by that is if they don't know what to expect, how far out before, right? Do I wait to the month before I'm ready to sell? And what do I need to kind of really start to have this conversation?
Yeah, I'm talking with companies that have done a lot of preparation for it for years, and I'm talking with people that they're just starting to think about it. And really, there's again no wrong answer to have that conversation because we can see through a lot of that. You don't need to get your company ready to sell. Like a lot of people think, because if a business owner is running, different personal expenses through the company, we add those back for you, and count that as profit. So you don't have to have 3 years of, I guess, so-called clean books. We can look through a lot of that stuff with justification. So you don't need to go through all that legwork. It's easier than a lot of people think.
And then
it's a big step. It's got to be, and whether it's with us or a different company, due diligence goes both ways. It's got to be the right fit for obviously the MSP before it's the right fit for us, and then it can be a right fit for us. So but it starts with conversations. That's really the big thing.
how do they know generally when you're the right fit?
There's That's a good question. There's no perfect fit
Yeah.
out there, us or anybody else. There's never such thing as a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just got to look at the deal. You got to look at the upside. You got to look at the team. Is it a team or a vision that I can believe in? Am I ready to sell? Am I ready to merge? And these are all questions that we can we'll start asking and go through and have conversations. We can go as fast or as slow as anybody wants.
If I understand your model, help me understand, but sometimes people are acquiring, and what they really mean is robbing people. And I say that, and not quite robbing, but buying it for nothing. If I understand your model, the valuation's the valuation. And so it's not that you're paying probably the highest or the lowest. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But if I understand your model, if it's worth $100,000, then there's that valuation. But you can also roll forward some of your equity, participate in that upside. And the reason I say that, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, is so many of us get stuck and go, let me get 3 years clean books. Let me work on my EBITDA. Let me do this and that. Let me get it to 150 or 200. Because I spent, 10, 20 years to get it to 100. Let me spend 3 more to get it to 150 or 200. And, if I were just walking away with a check, that would probably make sense. But if you're rolling forward that valuation and that EBITDA, right, then it sounds like you can more or less come as you are, right? Because the collective is going to benefit from all the optimizations and other things, and you can participate in that via equity. Is that accurate?
That's exactly it. Yep.
I just say that because it's too easy to get wrapped around the axle and I got to get everything perfect. At least if you can that engineering mindset. Before I kind of go out to quote unquote market. But if you're not just looking to walk away and you want to participate in the equity upside, then the reason I say this is I have a friend that worked for so long to build his and sold it. And he had an interesting one. It was a hybrid where he walked away with a lot of cash. And I forget if it was 30-70 or 70-30, but it was that kind of thing, and rolled some of his, I think it was 70% cash, 30% equity, and worked at that place 3-4 years. They exited to a bigger entity. And the funny thing is, he called me, he's like, I made more in the last 4 years. Not just the paycheck. Of course, they increased his pay, but meaningfully, the part was like the other 70%, like it was life changing when it happened in the moment, but it was almost a rounding error compared to like the
initial sale.
Yeah. And he rolled for, in retrospect, he wished he'd rolled a lot more of the equity forward, but like he had rolled forward a minority of the equity, and that was still the lion's share of the value. So I think it's easy to miss.
That's the same thing we're looking to do.
Yeah.
And that money goes back to us as fellow owners.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to miss that. It could be, but it doesn't have to be a one-time event. So I want to switch gears and ask you, Kevin, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in all your years in business?
Really good question. Really good question. It's really quite simple. It's 100% of our employees are people, and 100% of our customers are people. And I'm a huge believer that if you don't understand people, you don't understand business.
Well said. That is, I feel like truer words were never spoken. And I say that to me now and me prior, and to some of our techs that are coming up that are very technical, that sometimes don't want to speak with people. I know we never hire those kind of people, but yeah. If you could do one thing over or differently, what would that be?
Get out of my way faster.
Yeah.
Get out of my own way faster. Yep.
How so? Like, is there a stage or a moment or?
It's hard because when we were $1 million in revenue, somebody told me that once, and I'm like, yeah, right. There's way too much to do. I don't have anybody qualified to hand this stuff off to. And so I remember making all of those excuses, and there's times that I give that advice to companies that are in that size range, and you could see their face. They have the same reaction, like, yeah, right. There's nobody at my company I could give this stuff to, but you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And if somebody can do it 70% as good as you, that's great. That's perfect. Because if you get two people that are 70% as good as you, that's now 140% of you that you didn't have before. And there's only 100% of you. So you have to have people to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a coach one time that told me 80% done by somebody else is 100% effing awesome.
That's great. That's it. So, yeah. 80%, 70. That's exactly it. That's great. I like that.
It really speaks to the perfectionist in me.
Yeah, I know, because yes, you might be able to get it done better yourself, but you could have also done other things.
Yeah. And so many of them are higher leverage and what we're gifted at. And if we really want to serve people, maybe invoicing is not the right thing, right? It certainly wasn't for me.
That's it.
What are you most excited about, given where you are in business and the industry? Like, what is something you're looking forward to?
Oh man, obviously AI is the buzzword. There's no joke about that. But seeing our industry adopt AI and be able to be experts for our customers, it's incredible. I see the MSP industry around compliance gaining a lot of traction as well. There's just so much that is happening in our industry, and things that we can start. As Wayne Gretzky says, skating to where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And I think those are two of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your take on AI? And I don't mean which model's best. What I really mean is, from a business perspective, like, should you be an early adopter, a laggard, and where are we now? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're gearing up our company to really drive business conversations around AI to our businesses. We're about to bring on a full-time person that just is an AI champion for both internal and for our partners, and then working with our go-to-market teams or sales team to be able to drive those conversations to our customers. So if you think of like VCIO, MSPs have, then it was VCISO. I don't know what the acronym is going to be, but some sort of a chief automation officer or something along those lines. There's going to be so much demand for this, and there already is demand. There's so many companies that don't know how to use it, don't know how to train their team. There could be so much more efficient in their existing companies. So I really think that's our responsibility as managed service providers.
Yeah. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity there, right? Because there is, period, but also, I don't know, I think for the first time, we could go from keeping the lights on, kind of the main goal, to driving top line revenue or EBITDA or, all sorts of other business objectives. And obviously that changes for so many years, I think we've been fighting to have a seat at the table with the board. And maybe we've accomplished that as VCIO. And sometimes I still think that's like the chief cost center, depending on how the business looks at it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
Another good question. Our biggest challenge right now is sales.
Yeah.
It's sales and getting that quality sales leader in place.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is we suck at it as an industry. And I mean that in the nicest way, because I'm in it. But, you look at other industries that, we're kind of engineering first, if you will, and sales first. And you look at a few other industries that have, like software as a service, that tends to be more sales and marketing oriented. They get to those things a little faster as an industry. So yeah, it's that I think that's the common one. If sales isn't your issue, then you have a really high quality problem.
That's funny. Yeah, that's another good analogy.
What's the number one book you would recommend to others?
So we're big in in EOS. And so it, EOS really changed our business for the better, the entrepreneurial operating system. And so there's traction if you are more analytical in your thinking process, or there's rocket fuel, which takes a fictitious company and shows the benefits of traction. So both really have the same outcome. It just depends on what kind of brain you have. So I'd say rocket fuel or traction.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the top recommended book. A lot of MSPs adopting EOS, but I love your analogy because I know they both exist. We operate in the US, but I love the analogy of depending on the brain because I'm tending more visionaries to the rocket fuel.
That one speaks to me. Rocket fuel for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The other one, I'm like, seems good. Lots of rules. For folks that would like to reach out to you, whether that is to talk about M&A or people or just get advice, is that something you're open to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How can they find you?
My email address is kevin@ITPartners.com. Pretty simple. Kevin@ITPartners.com.
Okay. Email's the best way to find you.
Yeah, email, LinkedIn. When you publish this podcast, you could publish my cell phone number too. That's even if somebody's not open to M&A, if there's something that we can help them out with, getting over a business hurdle or a growth challenge or anything like that, we're all peers in the industry, and iron sharpens iron here.
Yeah, I love that. That's an amazing gift. Make sure to take Kevin up on that really generous offer. Kevin, this has been an incredible blessing, and I've learned a lot. And thank you so much for being on MSP Mindset.
Yeah, thanks so much, Damien. Pleasure.